Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome back to another author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Maybe you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And joining us today is a first-time author making their official debut ever on the show. Now, my guest today holds a Bachelor of Science in Special Education and a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. She has been working in the field of special education for over 30 years. And when she unexpectedly became a caretaker for her estranged aunt with Alzheimer's, she quickly immersed herself in learning about Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. During this process, she recognized the similarities between caring for those with neurodivergence and neurodegeneration and discovered a new passion for helping others. After completing a certificate in Dementia Care and attending a seminar from the National Council of Certified Dementia Practitioners, or NCCDP, she hopes to become a certified dementia volunteer. And when she isn't making memories with her family, she enjoys traveling, playing Sudoku, and feeding the animals in her backyard. She finds pleasure in the simple things in life and hopes to spend her future retirement traveling to places she's only dreamed of. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a huge round of applause to our guest today, Tanya Taibl. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, Tanya. I am so excited to have you here on the show. Now, before we dive into this very special project you are working on, what's sort of a random fact about you that not a lot of people may know about?
A random fact about me that not too many people know. I'm an avid stamp collector. I've been collecting stamps
Ooh.
since my youth. So I have a collection of thousands of stamps from all across the world. So that's a fun fact.
Awesome, awesome. And for people now meeting you for the first time, Tanya, without revealing too much, can you summarize this memoir you're writing in just a few lines? And what are sort of the core themes and emotions that people will experience and explore?
So this memoir is truly a journey. So I introduce myself, I introduce my aunt, the hate I carried for her. And at the end, I find love and empathy for her. It's about forgiveness. Um, and it's also about learning how to be a caretaker. So my hope is that people will walk away knowing a little bit more about Alzheimer's and caretaking than they did when they first started reading.
Very nice. Very, very nice, Tanya. Now, ultimately, kind of going back into your bio again, what really inspired you to write this memoir about your aunt? And what moments led you to realize that writing was your calling?
So I've always written, not I haven't always written stories and books, but I used to write in high school for the paper. I used to write the sports section, and in college I wrote for our newsletter. I did attempt to write a children's book when I was younger. Unfortunately, that went flat pretty quickly. We didn't have the internet back then, so things were a lot more challenging. You had to send out your manuscripts through snail mail, and it was just such a process. I got kind of gave up. Um, and what inspired me to write this book is very interesting because I found journals, 40 years of journals of my aunt, who I never knew anything about. She was estranged. She didn't come by too often. So because I
Mm.
had all of this information, I had 40 years of journals. And what I was doing is I was writing notes and timelines. And it just came to a point where I had so much that I was like, let's try and organize this in such a way where I can develop something meaningful. And that's kind of how this whole book transpired on my iPad. I didn't have a computer. I was just there on my iPad. 7 chapters happened, and I was like, okay, I can do this. So that's how all of that transpired.
Alrighty, alrighty. So now let's go into the behind the scenes, the meat and potatoes of this memoir. Now, ultimately, what is the need or desire you want to fulfill for your readers, as well as the promise you're making to them, as well as yourself?
So my tagline is, it's her story, it's my story, and it's our story. The collective our meaning those of caretakers, because anyone who has experienced a loved one struggling with dementia will understand the struggles and the journey that this story takes. There's a lot of ugliness. It starts out very ugly, but then there's beauty. There's beauty and there's love and there's forgiveness. So, yeah.
Nice. Beautifully said, Tanya. Beautifully said. Now, this is actually a fan question that one of my viewers wanted me to ask you after they read and listened to another guest I had on the show who also was writing a memoir. When it comes to writing memoirs or any books that are nonfiction in nature, how do you maintain the voice of the people in the story and their authenticity?
For me, that came very easy because in order to write this memoir, I had to establish a relationship, and relationships are very important. Um, a lot of communication, a lot of understanding, and you just have to stay true to that and not try and change or to force or go into a different direction. You have to just stay consistent and stick with that drives you. You know, there was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of getting to know who she was because I never really knew my aunt, and coming
Mm.
home and writing conversations that we had. So there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of narration in the book. And those are true. That's the voice. That's my voice. It's the truth, and it's keeping everything very consistent with how our relationship developed.
Very nice. Very, very nice, Tanya. And I think you may have already answered this before, but I want to go a little bit more in detail. In terms of the emotions and the insight, what do you hope readers will walk away after reading this memoir?
I think that if the readers really read and not just surface level, if they really read and pay attention, they will walk away um, really having a good understanding of this story and of this journey. There's one thing to read and to be busy and distracted and get through a book, but it's another thing to really read and pay attention because there's a lot in there. There's a lot of layering. So that's what my intentions are, for them to walk away really, really understanding and gaining information, because I do put some references in there. I do put some do's and don'ts. So it's
Mm.
informative. It's a story, but it's also informative. So I'm hoping they will walk away with knowledge and helping others who are in this situation.
Absolutely. Now, for two more fan questions that I got from my viewers, one viewer would like to know, when writing this memoir, what was, how do I word this? When writing this memoir, did you notice any changes in how you approach storytelling, in the sense of, are you more of now a organized writer, or are you more of a spontaneous writer?
Hmm, that's really good. I think I'm more of an organized writer because I feel that I have this vision and I have this story, and I know how I would love the puzzle pieces per se to fall into place. This all really, when I sat down, I really had a vision and it was structured and it was very planned out. So I'm definitely a planner. especially when it came to writing this memoir. If I write again, that might look a little different, but this one really went with a purpose. There was a perfect purpose. There was a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. And it had to be told in such a systematic way. Plus, I do have flashbacks that tie into what I was speaking to currently. So it's definitely it's more of a planned approach to writing for me.
All righty, nice. And for the next fan question, this one's a little fun one. Are you more of a morning person or a night owl when it comes to writing? And this can also be reading too.
Um, Neither. I'm an afternoon person.
All righty.
I'm an afternoon person. I tend to want to do the things that I need to do in the morning, so that I can then remain focused in the afternoons. And then by the nighttime, I'm tired because, it takes a lot of thought and energy into putting in something that's going to hold value. So definitely not a morning or an evening person.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Honestly, I think that's probably the first answer I've ever gotten to this fan question where it's a complete third option, because I've had a lot of people say that they are early morning people where they wake up at 4 in the morning and write. Others more commonly are night owls. I myself am a night owl when it comes to writing. I will write occasionally in the day, but I love to write at night. That's my peace and quiet time. So thank you for providing a third option. And when it comes to books like these, memoirs in general, that ultimately are in a way telling a story, but are also trying to teach people in terms of solutions, understandings, and emotional connections, what ultimately do you hope that readers will take away from this book and probably apply it to their own lives in some way, or maybe help a family member who may be experiencing something very similar?
Yeah, so my do's and don'ts. So I've embedded what I've learned taking, dementia courses. Not only did I embed the things that you should and you should not do, I've also given examples of how I follow the do's and the don'ts. Now, following the do's are very important, right? But I'm human and sometimes I did the don'ts, right? And it's okay, right? We're not always going to be doing the correct things. Sometimes we're human and we want to do what feels right for us. But readers will definitely walk away feeling a little more confident in knowing how to interact with somebody who has dementia, especially when they're struggling, right? And that's where my special education background comes in. There is a lot of my background knowledge in modifying the way I communicate, adapting to students with special needs. It's very similar in how that crosses over. It's definitely a bridging of the two professions. So I do give the readers that, which I know because I have gotten feedback has been very beneficial for some people.
And on this topic of feedback, what has the feedback been like? And from those, positive reactions, has your promise and mission, in a sense, been validated?
Yes, and I think it's gotten stronger because after I've had my beta readers read, I want to learn more. I want to do better. I want to make this the best it could be. So that was part of my questioning, right? Did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? What should I add more of? What do you feel would be even more beneficial? And on the opposite of that, what should I take out? Because sometimes, as writers, we tend to do too much. So it's also making sure that you don't have too much in there. But yeah, definitely that was very helpful in getting the feedback from my beta readers.
Nice. And now this next question, Tanya, a lot of authors that I've asked this question, I used to ask this question more frequently, but I found a lot of people were struggling with it because they did not know how to answer. And it is a very, I want to say difficult or challenging answer. It's a very unique question. Ultimately, what unique perspectives or experiences does your memoir offer that readers might not find elsewhere in other publications?
I think the first-hand account of the journal entries that I share with my readers gives an insight that nothing else will. Example, my aunt struggled and she wrote it down. Now, you can read in a book that somebody struggled and you can assume how that person feels based on your struggles. But to see it firsthand by the person who is unraveling, who is showing early signs of dementia and questioning what is happening to them, I think that's invaluable. And I think that that's what sets this book apart. I have her words, I have her thoughts, I have her emotions. It is all there in black and white, and those are all embedded in the book. And the reason it's called The Words She Left Behind is because it's truly that. So I don't know any other, I mean, there could be memoir where we're focusing on somebody from the very beginning to where she is now, seeing exactly what's going on. Because what happens a lot with these people who are struggling, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm good, you're crazy. Meanwhile, what they're writing is not necessarily what they're telling other people, because you don't, they don't want other people to feel sorry for them, or they don't want other people to worry. But what she wrote down is just, it's incomprehensible, some of the things that I'm sharing that she had gone through, and had we known, had she did speak up, her life, this would have been a different story. So I think that's very unique in this story. It's right there, firsthand account, the degeneration, the unraveling, and the progression of the disease.
Absolutely. And I actually remember another colleague of mine who specializes in memoir writing and has interviewed quite a few other people in this genre of yours and many others. They made a note in saying that, to your point, it is very different in terms of styles of writing. When you're writing a memoir about a person, you may not have that connection or have that first person account, but you're trying to give back their agency. Whereas for you, Tanya, you had that, firsthand account. You had that experience. You saw it
Yes,
firsthand. And
yes,
with those letters, you are giving her her agency and letting the world know
yes.
who exactly she was beyond where she is, where she was now.
Yeah, and this speaks volumes to other people who are going through the same thing. And it's just very sad. It's very sad. The whole thing is very sad. The whole disease is very sad. But to
Mm.
have evidence of it in my fingertips was just unbelievable. So I had to do something with this. And she knows that I'm writing this memoir. She knows. And she welcomes it, and she knows it's a beautiful story, because in the end it definitely is. So I do have permission from her to tell this story. But unfortunately, at this point, she just doesn't remember very much. So it's me telling
Mm.
her story all over again, right? So
Right. Absolutely. Very true. Now we get into probably some of my favorite questions, and these are actually some incredible ones. When you began this journey, Tanya, and as you were, refining your skills for writing and doing the research, gathering, your aunt's letters and really finding the right, what's what I'm thinking of, the perfect combination of, from experiences and you learning the history of neurodegeneration and dementia and what is done to people throughout history, and then from your aunt's own experiences. Ultimately, have you ever had moments of writer's block and imposter syndrome when it came to looking back with fresher eyes? Because as authors, we always have those moments of, am I actually going to be taken seriously, or am I telling the correct story? Is this the correct medium or something like that?
Yes and no. I feel like I really got this right. I really truly feel like I am telling an authentic story. Again, because I have the evidence there, right? I have the evidence there. I just had to make sure, um, what I struggled with was just making sure I wasn't sharing too much, right? Because there is a
Mm,
fine line. There's a fine line
right.
of, maybe it's not so fine. I don't know, but there was a line that I just would not cross, okay? Because here I am having somebody else's secrets, somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's words. I had to be careful in balancing what I was going to share and what I was going to keep private. I think that was my biggest challenge. Because let me tell you, Gabriel, when I started this, I was angry with her. I hated her. I hated her.
Mm,
So I threw everything but the kitchen sink at this book. But as I
oh,
got to know her and as I gained empathy for her, and as I was reading and got to understand her and understand the disease, this has gone through quite a few edits. Um, I am working with a team. I'm sure I'm driving them crazy because every time I read it, I think, like, does this have to be in there? Do I have to
right.
share this about her? Right. So that I have taken things out. So that was my struggle. Um, that's where I really had to work on dignity, right? And autonomy, her autonomy. So that's where my struggle was.
Absolutely. Well said, Tanya. Well said. Now, as authors, we're always inspired by people that we've read or people that we've loved growing up. So I'm very curious. Did you have any literary role models, particularly in the realm of memoirs or similar themes, that may have inspired you or influenced you in your approach to telling this story of your aunt?
So the one book that always resonated with me was, I have it here. I repurchased it, Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. And the reason it resonated with me is, first of all, he's interviewing a teacher who he loved. Okay. So, and I'm a teacher, right? And the fact that this teacher had such an impact on this author that he wanted to write this book about his teacher, that would be every teacher's dream, right? So it resonated with me so strongly that, when I started writing this, I thought to myself, I said, oh my goodness, what I'm doing is what Mitch Albom did for Maury, his teacher. I'm kind of sharing somebody else's story through my story. So this book resonated with me absolutely, and I went back recently to read it, and I'm crying, and I'm like, okay, well, what about this story is making me cry? I need to sprinkle some of that into my story to hook, my readers, to engage my readers, to make them feel. And what I realized is he really did a great job describing ALS. So
Mm,
he's writing about somebody who's going to die from ALS. I'm writing about somebody who's going to die from Alzheimer's. And it really helped shape some of my book, because originally I didn't have so much about what Alzheimer's was. But once I went back to read Tuesdays with Maury, I was like, I have to add that into my book. I have to let the readers understand that I'm writing about a dying woman. I'm writing about a woman who has, no matter what she does, she's going to die from this ugly, horrible disease. So that fulfilled me. And I love this book, and I love the dialogue. I put a lot of dialogue in my book because all these conversations are still so vivid. I have all these conversations. I remember every single one of them because they just happened, right? And I used to write in a notebook everything that would happen after I visited her. So I have all of these notes myself. So definitely to get back to your question, Tuesdays with Maury, Michelle Blum, number one. I read mostly all of his books. I just love how he writes. I love how he perceives the world and how he puts it down on paper.
Nice. Very, very nice, Tanya. And I'm actually going to change it up a little bit. I'm actually going to give you another fan question. This one's probably my personal favorite, so I'm very curious.
Sure.
So here's the question. So
Okay.
let's say you've been given an unlimited budget to
Oh boy.
adapt this memoir into two of the following mediums:
Okay.
a full-on audiobook with some of the best narrators in the industry and maybe a narrator of your choice that you've admired, or second, a documentary.
A
Which one would you
documentary. A
choose?
documentary. Hands down. If I was a screenwriter, I would absolutely take this on because if this is an onion and there's just so many layers to this story. And again, like I said, I had to really pull back, right?
Mm,
But if this was a documentary, I could go all out.
awesome. All
because
right.
because if you're doing a documentary, you have more control over exactly what your audience sees. When you're writing a book, right? You can kind of guide the reader, but in a visual representation of the story, you have full control. So that messages aren't so blurry. If I put it in a book, it's just not as safe as in a documentary. I would love, love, love somebody to read this and say, we need to do something with it because there's so much more to this story.
Absolutely. And on this topic of audience, did you write this memoir with a specific audience in mind, or is it more of a personal journey that has also become a shared experience between you and your beta readers?
Both. Um, a little bit of both. I think it was a little cathartic for me, right? Because once again, this story began. I introduced you to the hate I carried for this woman. I wanted her dead. I hated her. I hated her, hated her, hated her. And then I just, through the journey, um, I found this love for her. And I had an appreciation for caregivers and I had the knowledge. So I definitely have more of a target, a purpose versus just to have it, written down as a story to share with my beta readers. I wanted to have a purpose. I wanted to have the audience be some caregivers or anybody who has experienced with a loved one who has, these degenerative dementias.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, these next questions, I think you've already answered them, but I'm actually going to tweak it a little bit. So, do you have a general idea of who your ideal reader is? And if so, how well do you understand their needs and interests?
Yes, the caregiver. So yeah, we definitely I definitely mentioned this, but definitely the caregiver. I had them in mind the whole time. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Now, beyond this memoir that you're working on, Tanya, are you a part of any writing groups or community that has supported your journey?
Yes, I'm part of a collective group that meets virtually roughly twice a month, consisting of award-winning authors and editors. They have just been incredibly valuable to me as a new author, really just helping me guide my ship, answering all my questions. A couple of them were beta readers as well, which is just like a gift, right? You're having
Right.
award-winning authors read, offering to read your baby, your work, even when you
Hmm.
weren't sure if it was ready, right? So that was just incredible. Not everyone gets that opportunity. So I am very grateful for that. But yes, I do belong to a collective writers group.
All righty. Now, in terms of your publishing path, do you see yourself more as a hybrid author, indie, or traditionally small press?
So definitely for now, an independent author. I was recently approached by a small publishing company, and I talked it out with my group, and I was like, you know what? I'm not willing to change anything. I'm not
Hmm.
changing anything to meet your standard. I have invested in a photographer for the cover. Like, I'm good. Like, I do not want to touch it. I don't want anybody else to have control of it. Now, I have to also see how this is going to land, right? How is this book going to be perceived? How is it going to be welcomed and reviewed? Time will tell. Will it change to small publishing? I don't know, maybe. But for right now, I have no interest. I'm just so invested in this story and how it's played out that I'm not willing to make any changes, especially in this part of the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as a fellow independent author, I can also tell you it is not easy, financially, because that's a big thing that a lot of people don't really know about or aren't
Yeah.
well informed about being self-published or independent authors, if that's the path you're going on. Yes, you do have more creative control over your work, but it's all out of pocket. You really have to
Everything.
manage your finances, your editors, the cover, formatting. It's not easy. I've
Yeah.
actually had quite a few authors back on the show who have said numerous times that their debut novel, which was, the highest selling book they've ever made, it took them 7 years just to get it off the ground. And that's an important thing too, regardless of what kind of author you want to be, fiction or nonfiction, and the various genres in between. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, because
Yeah.
we only get better as time goes on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a very interesting process of what it means to be an author, because we definitely do change as time goes on, which leads into probably one of my favorite questions to ask. It is the balance between an author's individuality, but the marketability and understanding the market of one's book. So I'm very curious, Tanya, and from your own experiences, how have you been able to balance the two, and what have you learned from that?
From balancing what, the writing and then the marketing? Is that your
Yes. So,
question?
yes. So writing this memoir and not only highlighting your and story, but also showcasing your approach to writing and storytelling, but also the marketing side too.
Yeah, this is like you said, it's a journey, right? This is
Hmm.
I guess we could say this is year 3. If I'm being realistic, I'm almost probably at the third year, 2.5 years, let's just say, from the onset, from the idea of writing. So I have to say, writing it, you're just writing, right? I'm not thinking of anything else. So now I'm close to the finish line. I hope to get this published this November. So now I'm
Nice.
like, oh my goodness. Okay, I wrote a book. Now what? So I'm finding it almost a full-time job, trying to get my face out there, my words out there, um, into the authors community, into social media, podcasts. I mean, the one thing I do have, which has been very helpful, is that I have a very specific niche, right? I have dementia. Dementia is my global um reason for writing this. So I have reached out to several, dementia organizations, podcasters, and I've been very blessed, because they have been very welcoming, and sharing my social media. Um, just engaging with them has been helpful, because they're helping me get my message out there. So you can't be shy. You have to kind of like promote yourself. You can't be shy in this industry as an indie author. You have to market yourself, right? even just doing this with you, Gabriel, not everybody will want to do this, right? Not everybody can do this. It's not easy. You're talking about yourself. You have to talk about yourself in a positive way, and that's hard for people, right?
Yes.
So it's not for everybody, and you have to really think out of the box. So now that the book is done, I can focus. So there's the balance. The book is done. So now my efforts are in marketing and getting myself out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tanya. And this one, I think you may have already answered before in terms of role models, in terms of like, what books have helped you. But can you think of any other authors or books that have challenged you creatively and pushed you to strive for a higher standard in your own work?
So, in my, I can't even believe I'm saying this, in my authors group, right? I have gotten to know these authors so well. And I know you're going to be having Angela Arias on your show. I don't know if you know Donnie Hardison II. I don't know if
I
you
don't
know
think
him.
so.
Okay, well, I've read both of their first memoirs, and let me tell you, I was like, okay, I'm among the best here. I have to be up on their level, right? They're kind of like my mentors. Phenomenal writers, award-winning authors. So there is a little bit of pressure that I put on myself. They don't put any pressure on me. But as my mentors, I definitely feel more motivated to write better, to become a better author, to kind of like have them have pride in me, like I'm like their little baby. Right? They're kind of like guiding me and helping me and reading my work and telling me, oh, maybe you should do this or maybe you should do that. So I am striving to become a better author because of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, before we get to the last few questions of this amazing interview, Tanya, there was one very special fan question that a
Okay.
viewer sent in to me that honestly I have not gotten before, but
Uh-huh.
I'm really, really happy that I got this. One of my viewers would like to know, as you have been writing this memoir,
Uh-huh.
almost kind of what you said, that you've been writing this for a few years now in
Yeah.
developing the story. How has your confidence grown in yourself in terms of really seeing that you are indeed an author, that you can claim the ownership of authorship?
I think it's getting there, right? It's a walk in a dark room, right? You can feel it, but you can't see it. So
Mm-hmm.
I will know more once the book is out. You know, I think I have the confidence. I know that I have the support. It's just going to be a matter of what happens. Honestly, that's the truth, right? I'm in the dark right now. I could feel around. I know what things are. I know what things are, where they are, what they are, but I don't know when the lights come on, what it's going to look like, really going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be as well received as I think it's going to be, right? I definitely know that I've become a stronger writer, but that comes with time. So,
Yes. Again, very good answer, Tanya, because you absolutely hit the nail on the head that, we grow with our writing. We're going to be very, very different. I have no doubt that you're going to pursue other works in possibly maybe some more memoirs or maybe in the realm of
mhm,
nonfiction. And your writing is going to be vastly different from when you started. I know my
mhm,
writing has definitely changed over the years, and that's okay. It
yeah,
just shows that we grow and we are just learning more about the industry every day. I mean, being a part of, as you mentioned, the writers group that you are with, you've met so many incredible authors. You've learned from them. They've given you feedback, insight, and that has helped you hone your writing,
yeah,
same as mine.
Yeah.
And only, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to writers and authors, that's the big thing. Having that connection, having that community, building that tribe of people that know
Yeah.
exactly what we're going
Yeah.
through. I know we are in an industry that is ever changing with artificial intelligence, uh, works that are commercially made in the sense of they lack that human intuition and
Yeah.
human imagination. But I think at the end of the day, readers, as well as fellow writers and authors, are always going to push for human driven stories and works that, inspire, educate, entertain, and ultimately enlighten. And on that note, Tanya, we get to the final question of this incredible author interview. With everything we talked about and more, what is your word of wisdom for other authors working on personal or challenging stories?
So my words of wisdom um is to live in those moments that you question the most. So what that means is don't rush it. Don't rush it. Live in the thought process, live in the uncertainty, live, break it apart, be with it instead of just making a rash decision, because it's definitely going to be worth it, because sometimes writing is hard. I know a lot of memoirists, they're writing about trauma, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that that's really hard and it stops them from writing. um, but it's their story that needs to be heard to help others. So to live in that uncomfortable space and just kind of move through it, don't rush through it. In Alzheimer's and dementia, we say to meet them where they are. They might think that they're 12 years old and I'm their mom. You meet them
Mm-hmm.
where they are. If you're struggling, if you can't get through it, it's okay. Just be where you are and take a break and then just move through it. Just don't rush it. Don't rush it, because you want to create authentic work. And if you rush
Mm-hmm.
it, you're missing the mark, you're missing the emotions, you're missing the feelings, you're just rushing through it. So that was definitely, that's my words of wisdom, because there were many times when I had to sit with it because I was unsure, again, like I said, for those ethical moments. What am I putting
Mm-hmm.
in, what am I putting out, what am I keeping out? So I had to live in that for quite some time and ask for help. What do I do? Do I put this in, I could have sped through it. I could have said no, or I could have said yes. But I had to really focus on those hard questions, those hard things. So, and in the end, I think I made the best decision for the story, for my aunt, for my family, and hopefully for my readers. I'm really excited. I really hope um, that this resonates. I really think it's such a unique perspective. And I really got handed a gift. I got handed a gift. I got handed the words of a woman who nobody cared about. Nobody cared about her. She wasn't loved. She never got married. She never had children. And what that brought up in me, being somebody who was always loved, who came from a wonderful family, who I would even say had everything they ever wanted in life. And all my aunt wanted to do was to be a part of something and be loved. And
Mm-hmm.
in the end, that's what she got. But it was 70 years of struggling that nobody knew about. But I have her journal. So this story is a gift for everybody, and it's one of the biggest gifts I can give my aunt too. So I just hope, it's well received. So I think it's pretty special. So
Excellent, Tanya. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners, we officially end this incredible author interview here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I want to give a huge thank you to Tanya for coming on the show, making her official author debut here on the channel. Now, Tanya, where can people find you on social media if they want to reach out and connect? And if you still have applications for beta readers, how can people find those and reach out?
Okay, so beta readers are done. Thank you for that. That actually is probably very helpful for others. So I am on social media, Tanya _T_ memoirist. And what I've done to further engage my future readers is to put informative video clips of those do's and don'ts with my aunt highlighted, as well as a newsletter that comes out twice a month with sneak peeks into the book and informative facts about dementia. So that is what I'm doing. Again, it's to entice and to educate readers, future readers. But yeah, Tanya _ memoirist on Instagram and actually TikTok. So that's where I am. Come find me.
Awesome. I will link all that down below in the description of this video, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode here on the show. Again, a huge thank you to Tanya. We wish her the very best on her journey. And if you'd like to see her back on the show in a follow-up interview or maybe a spotlight interview, talk more about Tanya's background in special education and more, you know you have to do, viewers and listeners, like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Until then, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, signing out. Wish you all a wonderful Friday wherever you are in the world. Happy afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Take care and have a wonderful day.